So now, according to, after, Donald Trump and his insurrection buddy, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, after they had their meeting, now apparently House Republicans are going to pursue legislation requiring proof of citizenship to vote. My question is, so we're going to show proof to Miss Susie at the polling place? How is Miss Susie going to verify? Are we asking people to bring their papers? This is America. So I just want to know, is this what all of the House Republicans want to lay their chips on, even the 18 that sit in districts that Joe Biden won in 2020?
What strikes me is this is the long tail of a long time Republican effort to make it harder to vote, because they know that some of those requirements, having to show a license, they disproportionately impact communities of color. And what's interesting to me is they also disproportionately impact older Americans.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes,
And that's the part that you would think that Republicans would be more attuned to strategically.
But I think the bigger, broader, scarier point, Alicia, is this is all to breed distrust in our elections process. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, make no mistake, I still engage with the Republican Party base every single day. I know 70 to 80% of them don't believe Biden really won. But that hardcore base, the 40 to 50%, they no longer trust our elections. Trump is doing this on purpose. Distrust then will lead to violence. It happened in 2020.
Let's just zoom out, though.
This is amazing. Verifying your ID will only make people trust the process less. That's how it goes, right? That's MSNBC, ladies and gentlemen. I love how the black lady was like, so who's gonna verify this? The people there are gonna verify. They're gonna say ID, please. They're gonna look at your ID. There you go. Yeah, and then they're gonna let you vote. That's it. So who's gonna verify this? Am I gonna have to bring my papers? This is America. She's just saying things. It's amazing. If you can't tell by now, Coach Colin here, Sold Not For Sale podcast. We're talking about voter ID. I got Joe Rogan clips for you, Tucker Carlson clips for you, and also Tucker Carlson's recent interview with Ben Carson, where they talk about this exact issue. Can't wait for you guys to hear what Ben Carson has to say. We got a little bit of Candace Owens. We even have the border czar herself, Kamala Word Salad Harris. Let's get right into it. But of course, we're going to start with Rogan. Let's go.
What's happening in these hotels? This one guy's been there for 7 months. And he said they give him a nice hotel. It's a nice room. He says it's real clean. They give him breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And he's an illegal immigrant. Yeah. And then there's people that are poor. They're like, hey, what about my family? What about me? What about us Americans that live here, have always been here, born and raised here? And people just sneak in, and you're giving them all these things you won't give us. Why are you doing this? This is crazy. That's crazy.
Is it like a vote? Are they trying to get new voters or something?
I would imagine yes.
Yeah, but they're not going to be down with it. If you ever meet like a dude from Guatemala?
They're doing it right now in New York City. In New York City, they're allowing illegal immigrants to vote. Yeah. This is something is that true? Is that absolutely true? Let's make sure, because this is a big statement. But I'm pretty sure that was one of the things that they were trying to do. They were trying to make it so that these people could be documented. And this is what they keep saying. The way to deal with the undocumented people is find a pathway for them to be documented. Sure, that's how we've always done it. It's legal immigration. Now, you might think legal immigration is too restrictive. Okay. But you can't just let anybody in, because terrorists are a real thing.
Terrorists are a real thing. And the watch list, the terrorist watch, how many people that I've counted throughout my research, at least 30 people who they know of that were on the terrorist watch list trying to get through the border. And then again, getaways, you have no idea who's in the getaways, but very much seems like they're trying to import people. And as we see what's happened with Biden, and we see what's happening with Kamala Harris, all of this manufactured hype that's going to die down. The media won't die down from what they're saying, but the people will start to voice their opinions more and more. We're seeing so many black women, so many black men, so many white women, so many white men, so many Americans, working class, that are just completely, they understand what's happening, especially when they look around and they say, you're the one who knew that this guy wasn't competent enough mentally. You knew. You didn't say anything. Now you're running for president and I'm supposed to trust you. People aren't going for that. 100% not going for that. And the black community knows what Kamala Harris has done. But let's get into the next clip.
And they're all terrified of a Twitter storm. They're all terrified of a Twitter storm. You see it in our politics, you know, where somebody says something like the hot topic at the moment is immigration, particularly illegal immigration. So there's a lot of people coming from France to the UK illegally. They just jump in a boat from France illegally. And it's run by cartels and gangs. And the really sad thing is some of these people actually drown in the English Channel as a result. And they come to the UK. This needs to stop. You just can't have unfiltered illegal immigration. Yet you get people on, politicians, to go, look, we need to stop this. And then people are they're saying that one very famous ex-sportsman compares that to Nazi Germany.
It's like, why is it happening in this big rush? Is this engineered? Like, why is it happening like this? Like, what is it about this? It seems like at least some people want to keep the borders open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
It seems like something's changed where they've made it easier for people to just come across.
Yeah.
So what happened? Like, whose idea is that?
Right.
And then what is this crazy push where you want people to not have ID to vote? But
don't want this. You know what this clip reminds me of? It reminds me of an interview that Tucker Carlson did with one gentleman, and he was talking about how it's no coincidence that all of these left-wing governments are coming up with these terrible ideas all at the same time. He's like, these ideas are bad. He's like, and they're all coming out with these same ideas. Like, when you hear that gentleman talk about somebody drowning in the English Channel, that's the same thing that you hear about people passing away when they try to cross the, I believe it's called the Darien Gap, because how dangerous it is, whether it's water that takes you or the jungle or the cartels or sickness or whatever it is, traffickers, like whatever takes you, you end up passing away, not making it, sold into some kind of industry. It's the exact same thing. It's happening everywhere at the same time. And everywhere there is this weird standing down of these left-wing governments that are just like, open it up. No one's illegal. And it's always in the disguise of you want to be a good person. But in reality, when you hear that guy say somebody drowns in the English Channel, you hear about people passing away in the Darien Gap. In reality, what a good person would do was get real strict on your borders. That way, word gets to all these people who are trying to cross not to do it because they'll get turned away or because they'll have to remain in Mexico. And once that starts happening, you actually end up saving lives. People don't get that, though. You want to be compassionate through strength. What does Trump say? Peace through strength. Let's get into the next clip.
But look at New York City. When Coleman was explaining how New York City literally has a mandate to house its homeless.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be the people that lived there that were down on their luck. And now it's people that have come in from other cities or other countries, rather, illegally. And they're trying to make it so that those people can vote. And you see what they're doing with people from Venezuela?
Crazy.
They're sending people back from Venezuela.
Only from Venezuela.
Yeah, because Venezuela opposes socialism. So they're not going to vote Democratic.
Yeah.
They don't want those people.
That's crazy.
This is wild.
It's crazy how it's so odd. Like when you start thinking about it like that, that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's like totally political, all these moves.
100%.
Yeah.
They're literally importing Democratic voters.
Yeah.
They think by allowing the borders to be porous and by giving people aid and giving people housing that you're essentially guaranteeing that if you can rig it so that those people are allowed to vote, those people are going to vote Democratic. And if you could say that, voter ID is racist, like, what? Voter ID is racist.
That's crazy they think that.
They
don't think that. They don't think that. They know that that's not true.
It's horse.
Yeah.
It's all political horse.
I don't know, man. It might not be. I mean, I'm black. I cannot figure out for the life of me how to get an ID. I don't know how to do it. I have no idea. And I don't want to learn. So someone said it's free. I just plugged my ears. I walked away. That's how it goes most of the time. When people try to ID me for things, I just take it and I run out of the store. Can't get arrested that way. I mean, it's a pretty easy system, quite honestly. I drive really slow. I avoid cops. You know, that's all you got to do. Yeah, there's really no people. I should do a video where I ask people if they have ID. Do you have ID? I should just do that because everybody has ID. Everybody. For everything that you can think of right now, you need ID. You pretty much everything. There's a few things I can think of. And also, they want you to verify yourself in a database. They want you in the database. Like, who are we kidding when it comes to the government? Of course they're going to make it so easy for you. You can just walk into a place and be like, what could I do? They'll work with you. They'll be like, what do you have? I have a birth certificate. Okay. They might just do it off of that. Come on. Like, what are we talking about here? Anyway, let's get into Tucker Carlson, Ben Carson, talking about this very topic, the wise Ben Carson. Let's go. Let me make sure it's slowed down first. Yes, it is.
You that it's real. But are you concerned that letting in tens of millions of people illegally will have an effect on the outcome of this election?
Well, of course it will. I mean, that's the whole purpose of it. And I've talked to people who told me, they in Baltimore go into the voting station and just vote. They didn't have to show any ID. They didn't have to do anything. I remember one person who worked with me said, I went in there and they told me to vote. And she said, do you want to see my ID? And they said, no, we don't need to see your ID. So think about that and then multiply that by hundreds of thousands or millions of people. It can have a profound effect on the election. But also think about the fact that when people come in here illegally, they get legally counted in the census, which then is used to help determine how many representatives they have. So it has an impact that way also. So it definitely has an impact. It's just a matter of how great that impact will be. And as time goes on and you get more representatives who lean left, then you get legislation passed that becomes very friendly to people who've entered this country illegally. And you can profoundly change it to a point where it will never move in a different direction.
How far away from that are we now, do you think?
I think we're 1 or 2 elections away from that. And that's why it's so vitally important that we have people who can explain this in a way that people who are not legal or political scholars understand what's going on and are not so easily manipulated. We have to recognize that we're being manipulated. And this goes back a long way. There have always been people who have not been happy with the United States and with the way that we do things. And you can go all the way back to 1963 and look at the congressional record. January the 10th, 1963, Congressman Herlong of Florida read into the record the 45 goals of communism in America and how they plan to fundamentally change our society. It was derived from a book called The Naked Communist.
Now, I let that run a little longer just because I wanted that book title to pop out there. That book title is called The Naked Communist. Definitely check that book out. I have jumped into it just a little bit because of Ben Carson mentioning it. This is like my 3rd time watching that interview, and it's all happening now. Not even, you don't even have to explain much. That is happening now. And here's the thing, in my mind, if someone like Ben Carson is worried about it, this guy is not conspiratorial. I brought this up yesterday in a video because he was suggesting that Kamala Harris is a Marxist. And he doesn't come up with these. He's not the guy who watched the YouTube video. That's not the guy. He'll be like, well, I knew her father and I met him and I've studied this and I read that and I know all about communism. I've read about Marx. I've seen her policies over the years. I've seen what she's accepted. Like, he has a different database when he compiles his opinions, So when I hear him say something like that about her, take it seriously. When I hear him say something about these elections, 1 or 2 more elections, take that very seriously as well. You know, a little chilling thought. But let's move on. This is Kamala Harris. I want you to hear how Kamala Harris explains this, okay? I want this to be very clear, because this person is currently running for president after being installed, and no American people, no citizens, illegal or not, ID verified or not, have voted for this lady. Let's check this out.
If you're for decriminalizing border crossings, you're one of the people that raised their hands at the debate. Do you agree with AOC that we should get rid of DHS altogether?
That is not correct. I'm not in favor of decriminalizing or not having consequence for. We have to keep. Let me just be very clear. We have to have a secure border. But I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct. And what we've got to do is we cannot have any more policy like we have under this current president that is about inhumane conduct, that is about putting babies in cages, it is about separating children from their parents. And we have got to have policy that is about passing comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway towards citizenship, shutting down these private detention
Clarify this for me, though, because
yes,
I do find it confusing. Yes. I believe if someone crosses over the border, it is illegal, and you would decriminalize it.
I would not make it a crime punishable by jail. It should be a civil enforcement issue, but not a criminal enforcement issue.
She's amazing. Oh, man. What a lady. What a lady. The borders are, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you're seeing in action, because this was talked about a little while ago. So what you're seeing currently at the border, this was her plan the whole time. It's going to be, it's going to be civil, okay? And it's not going to be criminal, okay? So they're not going to be treated as criminals, and they're not going to be criminally charged. It's going to be a civil charge, and I don't believe in illegal aliens, okay? They're just going to be, their punishment is going to be a path to citizenship, okay? That's going to be their punishment. Hey, that's not a punishment. There's so many people that come over illegally that fight for that. They fight for years for that. What? Renewing their visas every 5 years, some every 2 years. Some crying because their kids got to stay in America and they got to go back to their home country because they got to do a renewal and they got to go back to the home country and then to extend it longer periods. But these people who walk across, that's not criminal. Okay, they broke the law, but it's not going to be a criminal thing. It's going to be a civil thing. And by civil thing, I mean they're going to get set up in a hotel room. Okay? Kamala Harris, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I wanted you guys to hear out everybody, right? You got to hear out Kamala Harris and what she thinks. This is Elon Musk. This is a very important thing. Ben Carson touched on this a little bit. Elon Musk is going to touch on it as well. Listen to this.
If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat. The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters. So the question is like how? So there's a few ways that this works. One is that when the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens. So the illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California and New York, and if you just look at the math, if you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, I believe California would lose. I believe the blue state, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House. This also applies to the Electoral College. So you say, like, well, this also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to to balance that, so that that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there. The Electoral College at this point, in our history, gives people who are in smaller states and red states much more of an influence over our elections than people who are in blue states, and the majority of the people in this country. That's what the Electoral College does. It actually does the exact opposite of what you're saying. It protects people who are in smaller states and protects people who are in red states.
Well,
the red states, because they tend to be smaller and less populous.
I think that statement is what you said is true, but what I said is also true, which is that if as is the case, a disproportionate number of legal immigrants go to blue states, they amplify the effect of a blue state vote. And the math, as I understand it, you can research this obviously very easily on there. It's pretty straightforward to research this. But my understanding is that there would be that the Democrats would lose approximately 20 seats in the House if illegals were not counted in the census, and that's also 20 less electoral votes for president. So the illegals absolutely do affect the who controls the House and who controls the presidency.
Don Lemon, the infamous interview. This was an $8 million interview. That's what it cost Don Lemon to come off like a CNN propagandist. He couldn't let it go. Couldn't let it go. Don Lemon could have been great, right? He could have just been like, I'm unleashing. I'm going to tell you everything I know about CNN. Could have went wild. Now, I'm telling you, I have the analytics. I can see him all the time. His channel doesn't even get more views than mine. What did he do? He's Don Lemon. He's Don Lemon. This is crazy. He should have a trajectory like Tucker Carlson. He should. I don't like him, but he should easily. Like, how's Chris Cuomo doing better? What? Messed it up. Messed it all up. Could have been the first to get a big contract from Elon Musk. It just had to do it. Let me just see something. How many seats in the Electoral College is 15 million people? That's not even the right language for that, but I just want to search that quickly. This AI thing might know what I'm talking about. California has a population of 39.5. According to 2020, they have 54 electoral votes. 2 senators equals 2 electoral votes. 53 congressional districts equals 53 electoral votes. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm not getting it from that math, but I wonder how much that actually equals. Obviously, it's spread out. Not all 15 million people who entered the country went to one place, but I wonder, according to what Elon's talking about, how much more power that might give people. Because it seems very true what he's saying. When you think about what Elon's saying, Eric Adams of New York said this is going to destroy our city. And they're all still there. You would think if a city like New York was like, we're going to be destroyed. This is going to destroy not just the local government, but the people who live here, the citizens. This is terrible. This is a threat. This is going to end very badly for all of us. You think they'd be like, oh, okay, so we got to either spread these people out or we got to send these people back. We just don't have the capacity. But for some reason, they're allowing all these people to stay. They're holding on. The mayor has said it is going to destroy the city. Chicago is under threat. They're spending millions and millions of dollars that the people of Chicago need. They're still keeping all the people. I wonder why they're doing that. I think there is something very, very true to what Elon was saying and something very, very dumb to what Don was saying. I mean, that's just common sense, right? You take the two, you got to figure Elon saying something smart, Don saying something dumb. Anyway, let's get into the Tucker Carlson parts.
Possibly in Arizona, then I think you're looking.
Of course I'm going that fast. Guys, I always do that. Somebody said, hey, you should stop clapping at the beginning and go check your playback speed. Hey, man, hey, I won't take that type of abuse, okay?
Possibly in Arizona, then I think you're looking at really a different Democratic coalition.
What do you make of the numbers, Tucker, that we're seeing out of Pennsylvania, that Senate race is really, really close, and it could be a long time before we call it?
Well, that's the problem. And I feel so sorry for you, Brett and Martha, because it probably will be a very late night for you and a tense one. And it points up the problem. Look, the country is really closely divided in a lot of places. Pennsylvania is one, Nevada's another, Arizona, lots of different places. And so you're going to have close election results. And people have to have confidence that those results are real, that they can trust the mechanics of the election. And what happened today in Maricopa County, where some huge percentage of voting machines, electronic voting machines, according to the Arizona Republic, 30%, they claim these are Dominion voting machines, but it almost doesn't matter. Electronic voting machines didn't allow people to vote, apparently. And that, whatever you think of it, the cause of it, it shakes people's faith in the system. That is an actual threat to democracy. And it points up the core problem, which is we're not really very serious about democracy if we're using electronic voting machines, or if we're not requiring photo ID to vote. We could have secure elections. We don't, because a small number of people don't want them. But until we do, you're going to have these moments where everybody in the country fears volatility.
Man, Tucker saying that on Fox, man. I don't think people who watch mainstream news knew what a gift that was to have somebody actually willing to say that type of stuff. I know he was on Fox and sometimes they let stuff like that fly, but even for Fox, he was over the top of what would usually be allowed. Now you're about to see him troll this woman because she's arguing that, you know, anybody who is in the country and is contributing should be able to vote.
The Constitution says, yeah, the illegal undocumented. That's kind of a hybrid of the two. But their Constitution says that foreigners are not allowed to participate in any way in their politics. Isn't that racist?
Well, I mean, but America is not racist. That's what makes America so beautiful. America is a melting pot. So that would only make sense that we would allow people who are contributing to our society to vote. So that would make sense.
Okay, so but then why are we upset about Russian influence in our elections then? Isn't that kind of what we want? I mean, there are a lot of Russians living here, Russian diplomats living here, long-term living here. Kislyak, the longtime ambassador. I don't think the Russian collusion was people contributing and then going to the polls and carrying out their school system. Hold on. Why should we? I'm confused. Why should we be worried about foreigners influencing our election on the one hand if you're calling for foreigners to influence our election on the other?
Well, these aren't foreigners. These are people who are living here, working here. Their children are in our schools. They're going to our hospitals. In places where now Trump has ICE visiting to pick up people who are undocumented.
I'm trying to track this because I want to take it seriously, and I do think this is the next frontier in liberalism. I think the Democratic platform will reflect what you're saying probably very soon.
The next frontier in America. You mean the future?
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, that's absolutely the future. But so Ambassador Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, spent I think like 20 years here. I think his kids grew up here. Certainly a big contributor economically to the city of Washington. Why should I be upset when he votes or influences our politics?
Well,
there's
so many people that we are sad that vote, right? But I mean, unfortunately, we don't have people voting that should be voting. We only have, I think, 59% turnout voting right now. So people who do contribute and are great people and contributing should be allowed to vote. So
okay, so that would include good. Well, I'm glad we can give up on the Russian collusion narrative. It was dumb from the beginning, and now I feel good about it because you know what? They're just transitory Americans, undocumented Americans.
Oh my God! If they're great people, they've been going on about this for a long time. That was 2018 before the other election. They've been going on and on about this for a long time. If they're great people and they're here, they should be able to vote. What? If they're great, I don't know. They're all great people. Anyone who comes here legally is great. Anyone. I think we've seen that that's actually not true. And we can't blanket statement anybody. Anybody in the world, we can't blanket statement, especially when it comes to illegal aliens, because there's way too many families that have suffered because of somebody who was released from a jail in another country and came over and was in a jail here and then all of a sudden gets released. And the next thing you know, they get released because of capacity. This is Lake and Riley's case. And the next thing you know, a young girl loses her life. I mean, and there was another one recently. The person was like 12. I mean, it's just, You can't say that they're all great. You just can't. Candace Owens, Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo making himself look like, I'm not even going to use those type of words. Chris Cuomo not coming off that smart. Let's just say that.
Should Americans be required to have ID to vote? Chris, yes or no?
No. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Until I see fraud rates that go along with the distinction, I don't believe that you make a simple pitch. Then my answer is no. And my answer is no because I don't believe that I don't believe you want the government having even more control over who can vote and who can't.
Okay, so okay. That's fine. I'm glad you're being honest. I just want to say, if you are a black or Hispanic American, please somebody find me the black or Hispanic American who does not work, because you need an ID to get a WT form, get set up, they ask you for your ID, who does not vote, who does not drink, who does not drive or drive somebody else's car. This person does not exist. That does not travel. You can't get on a plane without it. This person does not exist, okay? So it is the lie that they tell so that they can rig our elections by having a bunch of people who are not Americans coming in and voting. And by the way, everybody knows that, okay?
How can you know what we've never been shown?
Chris Cuomo, absolutely amazing. Always has you know how hard it is to always have a bad take? Just on the fly, just have a bad take. It's a talent. It really is. The thing that he and Candace actually misses when he says that you don't want the government having more control. You could actually look at it a different way. And it's true, you don't want the government to control everything that you do. But if there's no controls in that department, in that scenario, then it is possible for nefarious entities to capitalize on that. And it could be anybody. It could be someone running, could be someone who's not running, it could be anybody. But it just gives way to too much instability. So why would you want that? It's such a weak argument. Oh, well, you don't want the government to have more control. Like, what? That's like what someone would say if they were running for president. If they were running for president and they didn't have much support, they'd be like, nah, what IDs? What for? Nah, you don't want more control, do you? Nah. Don't worry about that. As long as they're good people, they're great people, let them come in, let them do what they want. Don't worry. They're not allowed to vote anyway. So we can just go with the honor system. Am I right? Am I right, everybody? Honor system? Yeah, of course. Tucker Carlson, once again, let's go. Actually, let me check the speed. Whoever said that about me, checking playback speed was right, I guess. Fine.
So out loud. Here is the Attorney General of the United States, the chief law enforcement officer of this country in Selma, Alabama, just the other day. Listen to this.
The right to vote is still under attack. And that is why the Justice Department is fighting back. That is why one of the first things I did when I came into office was to double the size of the voting section of the Civil Rights Division. That is why we are challenging efforts by states and jurisdictions to implement discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot, including those related to mail-in voting, the use of drop boxes, and voter ID requirements. That is why we are working to block the adoption of discriminatory redistricting plans that dilute the vote of black voters and other voters of color.
Did you catch that? Of course, you're a racist. That's always the takeaway. But consider the details of what the Attorney General of the United States just said. Mail-in balloting, drop boxes, voter ID requirements. The chief law enforcement officer of the United States government is telling you that it's immoral, in fact racist, in fact illegal, to ask people for their IDs when they vote to verify they are who they say they are. What is that? Well, no one ever talks about this, but the justification for it is that somehow people of color, black people, don't have state-issued IDs. Somehow they're living in a country where you can do virtually nothing without proving your identity with a government-issued ID without government-issued IDs. So they can't fly on planes, they can't have checking accounts, they can't have any interaction with the government, state, local, or federal. They can't stay in hotels. They can't have credit cards. Because someone without a state-issued ID can't do any of those things. But what's so interesting is these same people, very much including the Attorney General and the administration he serves, is working to eliminate cash, to make this a cashless society. Have you been to a stadium event recently? No cash accepted. You have to have a credit card. And in order to get a credit card, you need a state-issued ID. And somehow that's not racist.
No, of course, that's not racist. It's amazing. I don't know. I would love to understand how they get the black voters to go along with anything. I mean, it's wearing off now. You can see it. You saw it with Biden. You're seeing it with Trump, how so many of the black vote is going for Trump now. They're waking up to this whole thing. They're moving away from Biden. They're moving away from Harris. So they're starting to wake up. They realize that they weren't just born Democrats. That's not how it works. I just don't understand how so many of them just go along with anything. Like, how did this guy have these black women behind him and none of them go, "Excuse me, sir, what are you talking about? Sir? What are you talking about? We all needed IDs to get here. We all drove here." He would just turn around and be like, "Did you? Oh, all of you? But you're all black. Oh, wow. Well, all of you have done very well for yourself." Never been in a room with so many black people with IDs. Usually, they don't have any IDs. I mean, I just figured, it's hard to get one. Sir, they're free. I know, but, I just figured they let you into the place? They let you into that place to get the ID? Oh, man. Times have changed. Oh, best country in the world. And it is. It actually is. Let's get more into Tucker Carlson. And then who are we going to end it off with? We're going to end it off with Candace Owens. Let's go with Tucker first, though.
Stressed about it, and I don't really know, but there seems to be no appetite to do anything about it. I mean, one of the things, and I won't go on, it's the last thing I'll say, but the question of voter ID is not a question in most civilized countries. France, for example. You don't have an ID, you can't vote. I mean, because how do we know who you are? And we take elections seriously. Even in France, primitive, stinky France takes elections so much more seriously than we do. It's shameful to me as an American. And so, but we were told you can't do that because African Americans just don't have IDs. Really? Is there evidence for that? So in my country, you can't do anything without a government ID. You can't cash a check. You can't have a bank account. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes. You can't check into a hotel. You can't get on an airplane. You can't get on a Greyhound bus. You can't do anything without a government-issued ID. Of course, you can't drive a car. And so some enterprising independent journalists went out and tried to get the numbers on this. And it turns out nobody doesn't have a government ID. If you don't have a government ID in the United States, that means you can have no contact with government. You get nothing from government. You don't exist in the eyes of the government without a government ID. So the adult population of Americans of any color who don't have government-issued IDs is like approximately 0. Okay? It's like someone in a nursing home. And yet nobody in the media noted this. And to this day, we don't have voter ID laws in state after state because it's considered racist. And it's yet another example of the way that ruthless people with, I think, evil intent leverage the inherent decency of the citizens of our country to get their way. If they said, we're just going to commit voter fraud, and if you don't like it, we're going to shoot you, the people of the United States would rise up as one and put them down. But instead they say, you're a bad person if you ask questions, you're a racist. Well, no decent person wants to be a racist, including me. That's awful. I think God created every person with identical moral value. Identical. We are all creations. That's my view. So racism is like abhorrent to me. So I don't want to be called racist, and neither is anyone else in my sweet country, because Americans are really decent people. So that claim right there is enough to shut down the opposition sufficient to roll over it. And that is exactly what's happened. And I hope we're at a point where we just stop taking them seriously. These are people who don't care about the meaning of words, who will accuse you of abetting a mass shooting because you think your country has too many illegal aliens. Like, it's freaking insane. So obviously they don't really mean it. They don't really care. They just want you to be quiet because you're inconvenient. And my strong advice to you is don't be quiet.
Tucker Carlson. I love it. I love when he goes on these tours, Australia, different places. But you know, he needs to hit a hard tour of every state in the United States and America. That's what Tucker really needs to do, 100%. And he needs to be at some Trump rallies. Why haven't I? You don't see him. I'm sure he's done it before, but there should be some Tucker Trump type of action going on. I really want to see that, honestly. And what he just said is completely right. They just keep putting it in the disguise of being a good person. That's it. And that's exactly how, one of the ways how they label Republicans as racist. It's just one of the ways. Well, they want voter IDs because they don't like black people. That's all. It's amazing. I really need to do a video where I go around and ask black people if they have IDs. And they're going to think I'm a cop, of course, because of the way I talk. And they're going to think I'm a narc or something, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, let's end it off with Candace Owens, the black Tucker Carlson. I'm the black Tucker Carlson. She's the black female Tucker Carlson. Let's go.
I think black people are too stupid to get a driver's license.
Why would you call black people?
Because to me, I'm offended that people call that.
Black.
No, I'm asking you
You're
something.
black.
I'm asking you something. I'm offended when people say to me that oppresses us. I'm like, I don't know a single black person that doesn't have ID. You can't drive. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes. You can't buy alcohol. Don't think we're so stupid that we can't figure out how to get ID. It's insulting to call that voter suppression.
Okay.
It's insulting.
What about the closing and?
Do you know a single black person that doesn't have ID?
Yeah, I do. I actually do.
Really?
What about because in
I don't know a single black person that have ID.
To get ID, you need 3 other.
How are they living without ID? You can't go to school.
You need 3, 4 other. You can go to school. You get a school ID.
Okay,
right, but they won't take that at the polls.
So you're saying
they won't
black
take
people
that at the polls.
at 18 years old
Yes.
that cannot figure out how to get an ID.
No, it's not.
That's insulting.
See, the
That's
thing
insulting
is,
to our community.
no. What you don't understand is you need social security numbers. You need bank statement. You might need something mailed to your house. Bills. Like these kids aren't receiving bills. You need certain forms of information.
Social security number. Yeah.
Several different pieces of information that a lot of people just don't have.
See, man, this guy's very bold. To be bold enough to say that you need a bank statement in order to get an ID, but in order to get a bank account, you need an ID. What is he talking about? You need a bank statement? So some people, they don't got IDs. They need a bank statement. What are you saying right now? And also on top of that, Candace isn't the type of person to do this. I would be if I was in a debate, which is why I don't like debates. I don't like the energy, because I would flat call that guy a liar. You're lying. You're obviously lying. You're making it up. First of all, you don't know any 18-year-olds. You're a grown man. You don't know any 18-year-olds. If you do, they're your kids. And if they're your kids, you're probably making sure that they have some kind of ID. And on top of that, to end this off, I've lost all my ID. All of it. Everything. I remember I was going for job interviews and I just had all my ID because I was young and I didn't know what to do and I just wanted to make sure I had everything. I was going to employment agencies and stuff like that, and I had all my ID and I lost everything. And you just go to the place where you need to go and you say, I have nothing. What do I do? And they help you. They just go, okay, you got to do this thing. And before you know it, within 8, 9, maybe 10 weeks, I had all my ID back. Get out of here. Absolutely ridiculous. But the only reason I make this whole video is because that time is coming up soon. And there's nothing you can do about it, because I never want to call people to go out and do anything in the sense of, violence or, you know what I mean? I that's not what I'm trying to do here, but you do have to watch out for that. You do have to watch out for that. The most I would say is speak up. If you're in a city, speak up. Local government, speak up about this type of stuff, because this is the thing that they try to do. They try to demonize voter ID. They've been doing it for a very long time, and it makes it possible. I'm not saying that it happens, but it makes it possible for people with nefarious intentions to take advantage of the system. And no one can dispute that claim. No one. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Other than that, I'm out.